You've been taught the greatest lie of your existence, that holding on is strength, that clinging is love, that the tighter your grip, the more alive you are. You wrap your fingers around everything: relationships, possessions, identities, dreams, memories, plans, expectations, as if your very soul depends on never opening your hands. But listen closely. Your death grip is killing you. Every morning you wake with clenched fists. Every night you sleep with a strangled heart. You call this living, but it's the slowest form of suffocation. Look at yourself right now. See how your jaw is tense, how your shoulders carry the weight of everything you think you must preserve. Feel how exhausted you are from maintaining this constant state of vigilance, this relentless fear that something precious might slip away. You hold on because you believe letting go means losing yourself. But what if the opposite were true? What if everything you refuse to release is precisely what's drowning you? What if your attachment to things, people, outcomes, and stories has become the very prison that keeps you from experiencing the infinite freedom that you are? Look at your life right now. See how exhausted you are from carrying the weight of everything you think you must preserve. See how your shoulders ache from the burden of maintaining an identity that was never real to begin with. The tragedy is not that you might lose what you're holding on to. The tragedy is that you've forgotten what you are beneath all that desperate grasping. You've become a curator of your own suffering, a museum guard protecting artifacts that have already turned to dust. Every moment you spend clutching is a moment, stolen from the vastness of what you actually are. Every ounce of energy you pour into maintaining your grip is energy diverted from the infinite creative force that flows through you when your hands are open. You think you're protecting yourself, but you're suffocating the very essence that makes life worth living. From birth, they trained you to accumulate. Hold on to your toys, keep your grades, maintain your reputation, preserve your relationships, guard your secrets, protect your image, build your legacy, secure your future. They whispered the poison into your infant ears. What's yours is you. Lose it, and you disappear. So you became a collector of moments, a hoarder of experiences, a museum curator of your own existence. You learned that love meant possession, that security meant control, that identity meant the sum of what you could grasp. But underneath this training lies terror, the primal fear that without your collections you are nothing. Without your story you vanish. Without your carefully constructed self, the abyss swallows you whole. You hold on not from strength, but from the deepest cowardice. You cling not from love, but from the horror of discovering who you are when everything falls away. The very virtue you were taught, loyalty, commitment, dedication, has become your prison. Your faithfulness to things has made you unfaithful to yourself. Every relationship becomes a contract of ownership. Every achievement becomes a medal you must defend. Every memory becomes a precious artifact you must preserve at all costs. You've confused attachment with love, possession with care, control with wisdom. And in this confusion, you've lost touch with the very essence that makes love, care, and wisdom possible. You've forgotten that you are not what you hold, but the consciousness that holds everything without being diminished. You've forgotten that you are not what you experience, but the awareness in which all experiences arise and dissolve like waves in an ocean. This forgetting is the source of all your suffering. This amnesia is why letting go feels like death. The child in you still believes that if you let go of your teddy bear, you'll be alone in the dark forever. But the dark you fear is not emptiness. It's the pregnant void from which all light emerges. The void you run from is not nothingness. It's the infinite potential that you are before you limit yourself with stories, before you shrink yourself into the narrow corridors of a fabricated identity. They taught you to fear the unknown, but the unknown is your true home. They taught you to crave certainty, but certainty is the death of wonder, the end of growth, the suffocation of the creative spirit that you are. You've been conditioned to believe that happiness comes from accumulating, but every addiction starts with this lie. Every compulsion begins with this misunderstanding. The alcoholic clings to the bottle. The workaholic clings to achievement. The romantic clings to relationships. The spiritual seeker clings to experiences. All are variations of the same fundamental error, mistaking the wave for the ocean. The ancient sages knew what you have forgotten. Attachment is the root of all suffering. Not because the things you love are evil, but because love itself has been corrupted. What you call love is often possession wearing a beautiful mask. What you call dedication is often fear disguised as devotion. The Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree and discovered this truth. The ego that grasps is an illusion. The self that holds is a phantom. The you that clings is a story told by a frightened child. But this is not nihilism. This is the deepest recognition of what you actually are. You are not the collector. You are the consciousness in which all collections appear and disappear. You are not the experiencer. You are the awareness within which all experiences arise and dissolve. You are not the keeper of memories. You are the eternal present in which all time unfolds. When you realize this, letting go becomes not a loss but a homecoming. The Vedantic sages spoke of this truth. Tattvam asi. You are that. You are not the wave frantically trying to preserve its form. You are the ocean itself, eternally present, eternally whole. Lao Tzu understood. The way of water is to flow around obstacles, not to crash against them. Water conquers by yielding, masters by surrendering, fills every space by claiming none. This is the wisdom that Chopra reveals. You are not separate from the intelligence that governs the universe. You are not outside the cosmic dance, desperately trying to control it. You are the dance itself. When you align with this understanding, letting go becomes as natural as breathing. Release becomes as effortless as the sun giving light. The mystics of every tradition have pointed to this same truth. Rumi spoke of dying before you die. Eckhart wrote of the pathless path. Jesus taught of losing your life to find it. They all understood that what you think you are is not who you actually are. The constructed self, the accumulated identity, the carefully maintained persona, these are masks worn by the infinite playing the game of limitation. But the game has gone on long enough. The cosmic joke has stopped being funny. The dream of separation has become a nightmare of isolation. It's time to wake up. It's time to remember. It's time to return to what you never actually left. Now envision a different way of being. Imagine a version of yourself that loves like the sun, radiating warmth not because it needs to possess what it touches, but because radiance is its nature. This self gives freely because it has recognized its infinite abundance. It loves without attachment because it understands that true love is liberation, not captivity. Like a river that nourishes everything in its path while claiming nothing, this awakened you flows through life with open hands and an open heart. This is not the love that says you are mine, but the love that says you are free. Not the generosity that expects return, but the giving that arises from overflow. This self no longer acts from fear of loss, but from the recognition of inexhaustible fullness. It doesn't hold on to moments because it has become the eternal space in which all moments dance. When you operate from this understanding, letting go becomes an act of power, not weakness. Release becomes a celebration, not a sacrifice. You discover that what you truly are cannot be lost because it was never separate from you. You learn that your essence is not diminished when forms change, but revealed more clearly. This is the virtue that Chopra speaks of, the courage to trust the infinite intelligence that you are. This new self moves through the world like a master, artist, creating beautiful forms while remaining unattached to their permanence. It paints with full passion, then watches without grief as the painting fades. It loves completely, then releases gracefully when love calls for transformation. It engages fully, then withdraws naturally when engagement becomes clutching. This is not indifference, this is the deepest compassion. Not coldness, but the warmest presence, unconditioned by outcomes. From this space, every action becomes sacred because it arises from wholeness rather than lack. Every word becomes healing because it flows from truth rather than need. You become A blessing to the world precisely because you need nothing from it. Imagine waking up tomorrow without the crushing weight of maintaining your identity. Imagine moving through your day without the exhausting effort of controlling outcomes. Imagine loving without the fear of loss, giving without the expectation of return, being without the need to become. This is not a fantasy. This is your birthright. This is what you are when all the noise of attachment falls silent. In this state, you don't lose your capacity for joy. You discover what joy actually is. You don't become emotionally flat. You touch the source from which all genuine emotion flows. You don't stop caring. You learn what care looks like when it's not contaminated by need. You don't become passive. You discover what action looks like when it arises from the stillness of your true nature. This is the paradox that minds cannot grasp but hearts know immediately. You gain everything by releasing everything. You find yourself by losing yourself. You become real by letting go of what you thought was real. But even this understanding must die. Even this beautiful vision of detached love, this perfect philosophy of letting go, it too must be released. Because the deepest attachment is to enlightenment itself. The subtlest possession is the idea that you have transcended possession. There comes a moment when even the seeker must dissolve, when even the one who lets go must be let go of. This is the ultimate silence, not the absence of sound, but the cessation of the seeker. Not emptiness as void, but emptiness as the womb of all possibilities. In this silence, you discover that there was never anyone to hold on or let go. There was never anyone to be enlightened or unenlightened. There was only this eternal dance of consciousness, appearing as seeker and sought, as holder and released, as you and everything else. This death is not morbid. It's the most alive thing that can happen. Because when the false self dies, what remains is what you have always been. The deathless awareness in which all life and death play out. From this silence, you are reborn. Not as someone who has learned to let go, but as the very space in which holding and releasing are equally sacred movements. The mature soul knows when to disappear completely, so that what is real can emerge without obstruction. Even the teacher must eventually fall silent. Even the teaching must dissolve. Even the path must vanish so that you can discover you were never lost. This is why Chopra's deepest gift is not his words, but the silence between them. Not his concepts, but the awareness that receives all concepts and remains untouched. In this ultimate letting go, you release even the one who lets go. You surrender even the act of surrender. You return even the idea of return. What remains is what was always here, the eternal, unchanging, ever-present reality that you are. But here's the ultimate paradox. Even this understanding of no understanding must be held lightly. Even this recognition of no recognition must be allowed to come and go like clouds in an empty sky. The deepest freedom is the freedom from the need to be free. The highest understanding is the understanding that there's nothing to understand. The most profound letting go is letting go of the one who lets go. In this final silence, all concepts dissolve. Attachment and non-attachment, holding and releasing, seeking and finding, losing and returning. What remains is what was never touched by any of these movements of the mind. This is not a state you achieve. This is what you are when all states are transcended. This is not a place you reach. This is where you always are when all journeys end. Now you stand at the threshold. You can return to your familiar prison of grasping, or step into the wild freedom of your true nature. You can continue collecting moments like a desperate child, or trust the infinite intelligence that you are to provide everything you need in each eternal now. The choice is not intellectual, it's existential. It happens in the marrow of your being or not at all. If these words have found the secret chamber of your heart, if they have awakened something that remembers its own vastness, then make this commitment. Write in the comments. I am the space in which all holding and releasing happens. Let these words be your signature on the contract with truth. Let them be your vow to remember what you are beyond all stories of loss and gain. But know this, even this commitment must eventually be transcended. Even this understanding must be released. Even this awakening must dissolve into the silence from which it arose. Continue this journey. Watch the next video. Read the ancient texts. But more than anything, turn your attention to the one who is watching, reading, seeking. That one is closer than your breath, more intimate than your thoughts, more present than your presence. That one has never held on to anything because it is everything. That one has never lost anything because it is the eternal source from which all things arise and to which they return. You are that one. You have always been that one. The journey ends where it began, in the heart of what you are. Every step you've taken has been a step toward this recognition. Every teacher you've encountered has been this same truth wearing a different face. Every book you've read has been this same understanding expressed in different words. But now the time for teachers and books and words is ending. Now the time for direct recognition is beginning. Now the time for returning to yourself, not the self you think you are, but the self you have always been, is here. This is not the end of your story. This is the beginning of your reality. This is not the conclusion of your seeking. This is the dawn of your being. Welcome home to yourself. Welcome home to the silence that speaks louder than any words. Welcome home to the love that needs nothing and gives everything. Welcome home to the space in which all holding and all releasing happen. Welcome home to what you are when everything else falls away. Welcome home.